In a complex B2B sale, the decision maker isn't one fixed person with a fixed title. It's whoever actually holds the power to say yes or no. And this lesson gives you a real way to find them. It leans on the decision-making unit map you built back in Lesson 2, because the people you're about to plot on a power grid are the exact stakeholders you already named there. Without that map, you're just guessing who matters. If you skipped Lesson 2, that's worth going back for. In this one, you'll build a power/interest grid, name your actual key decision maker, and write a short profile of what drives them. The key decision maker is often not the person with the fanciest title in the room. Within a DMU, it might be the economic buyer, it might be a powerful VP, or it might be a champion with real influence over the rest of the committee. Your job is to diagnose who actually holds the budget and the sway, not who sounds the most senior. A common mistake is pouring all your energy into a champion who's simply too junior to move the deal. This lesson teaches you to tell the difference between the people who can say yes and the people who can only say no. First, the key decision maker may not have the most senior title in the room. Don't assume by rank. Second, a power/interest grid is how you actually map influence instead of guessing at it. Third, qualify that person's real authority, budget, and timeline before you build your strategy around them. Fourth, don't ignore your champion. They're crucial, but a champion alone can't get you across the finish line. You still need the economic buyer. And fifth, the key decision maker is simply the person you need to get to yes. The first is the power/interest grid, a 2x2 matrix that plots stakeholders by how much power they have over the decision and how much interest they're showing in your project. It tells you who to actively engage, who to simply keep informed, and who to keep satisfied without overinvesting your time. The second is the why you framework, and it's a simple pair of questions. Why is this company choosing to buy something now? And why should they buy it from you specifically? It forces you to understand your key decision maker's real motivation, not just their job description. This lesson tackles a central B2B question: who can actually say yes? You'll use the power/interest grid to map your stakeholders and identify your key decision maker. An honest completion here means taking a genuinely nuanced view of power, not just defaulting to job titles. By the end, the output for this lesson is your decision maker profile, a written description of the specific person you need to win over. Back in Lesson 2, you built a DMU map naming every stakeholder in a real deal. Now we're going to plot those same people on a grid that tells you who actually matters most. Draw a 2x2 grid, power on one axis, high or low, interest on the other. Plot your typical DMU stakeholders on it based on real experience, like an economic buyer who's high power but often low interest, versus a user champion who's low power but high interest. Based on that grid, identify the person with both the highest power and the highest influence on the deal. That's your key decision maker. Finally, write a short profile of them, their primary goals, their pain points, and how they prefer to communicate. If you have the printable workbook, this is worth capturing there so your whole team can reference the same profile. Your checklist: build a power/interest grid for your typical DMU. Name and identify the key decision maker role. Write a profile for that person. Review a recent win and identify who the actual decision maker was in it, and identify the decision maker in a current open opportunity. These produce a clear, actionable decision maker profile, the exact target the outreach playbook in the next lesson is built to reach. An ERP software vendor was spending months presenting to a committee of 6 to 8 people and never getting a straight answer, because they couldn't tell who the actual decision maker was. Every meeting turned into a group conversation, and it felt like selling to a room instead of a person. When they finally mapped the DMU, they found their real lever, a middle manager who genuinely wanted the deal to happen. They empowered that champion to advocate directly to the CFO, the actual economic buyer, instead of relying on committee consensus. Deals closing in under 90 days rose 50%, and sales cycle time dropped 35%. Think about that ERP vendor story. In a recent lost deal, did you truly identify and engage the key decision maker, or were you selling to a committee the whole time? Name the deal and the person you missed. For your current top opportunity, who's your champion, and who's your economic buyer? What specific action will you take this week to actually engage that economic buyer directly? And if you correctly identified and engaged the key decision maker on every deal from here on, what impact do you think that would have on your win rate? Pause and sit with that. The quickest shortcut is assuming the decision maker is whoever has the most senior title, and the cost is wasted time on people who genuinely can't say yes. Real completion tends to come as a light bulb moment, when you suddenly see who actually holds the real influence. This decision-maker profile is the linchpin for the outreach playbook you build next. Watch for the trap of treating your champion as the decision-maker themselves. Over-relying on one enthusiastic person, no matter how helpful, is how deals stall late. And the real test of application. Can your team answer, for every open opportunity, who is the economic buyer? Pause the video and open the Lesson 6 worksheet. Under Power/Interest Grid, write who falls in high power, high interest, your real key decision makers, and note who falls in high power, low interest, the people who need to be kept satisfied rather than sold to hard. Under Key Decision Maker Profile, write their role, their primary goal or pain, and their preferred communication style. Your own notes work fine if the printed pages aren't in front of you. This profile becomes the actual target for the outreach playbook you build in the next lesson. Check these off honestly. First, Power/Interest Grid completed. Check it once you've mapped your DMU stakeholders on the grid. Next, Key Decision Maker identified. Check it once you've named the role with the most influence and budget. And finally, check Decision Maker Profile written once you have a real written profile of that person. With all three checked, you've moved from selling to a faceless committee to targeting one specific person with specific goals and pains. This measures how well you actually know your decision makers right now. For contact quality, calculate what percentage of your open opportunities include real contact info for the key decision maker. For engagement success, compare your reply rate from decision makers against everyone else you're emailing. And for influencer coverage, check what percentage of your deals have an identified champion at all. A below benchmark result here usually means you're selling to the wrong person by default, and that's exactly what identifying the key decision maker is meant to fix. Look at your own organization's buying process for a moment. Who's the economic buyer for your sales tools? The technical buyer? The champion? Map your own company's DMU. It's a great way to internalize this by applying it somewhere you already know intimately. The question to sit with: if you were selling to your own company, who would you actually need to win over? Be honest. Is there a role in the DMU you consistently avoid contacting? What's the real reason for that? And what is that avoidance actually costing your deal velocity? For deeper reading, look into prospect theory from behavioral economics and how it applies to decision-making. Consider how understanding the psychology behind a decision could help you build a stronger case for your ICP. 3 actions to uncover real power on your next deal. Ask the prospect directly, who else will be involved in this decision? Identify the specific economic buyer and champion on your current top deals. And practice a conversation where you empower your champion to actually reach the economic buyer. Next time, we take this decision maker profile and build the actual playbook you'll use to reach and engage this person.